Hello, welcome to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all of the places you can find me should be linked in the description box just below this video. I'm most active over on Instagram, where you'll find me as both Rainbow Ange and Yarn and Yarns. Rainbow Ange is more kind of like my making side of things, and Yarn and Yarns is my business online persona outlet. I don't know how to put that across, but basically I run if you're new here, I run a small bricks and mortar yarn shop just outside of Cardiff in South Wales in the UK, where I live, and Yarn and Yarns is the account where I post shop news. That's the best way to put it, I think. Here on the channel you'll find me chatting about my adventures in knitting and spinning and crochet and weaving, so all of the fibre arty things really, and then between my weekly chats, of which this is one, I also put up Yarn and Yarns extra videos. They're mostly connected to fibre arty stuff, but I also throw in content about anything I fancy really. So sometimes you'll find beach walks. I'm out and about down by the sea at the moment. Sometimes you'll find journaling and of course knitting, crochet, spinning, all of that stuff too. This is our weekly vlog chat where I talk about the things that I've been making during this week, and during the lockdown period here in the UK it's kind of been somewhat customary for me to come and do my intro down at the seafront. I am very lucky to be able to walk within 5 minutes of my house and come down and see the sea and enjoy beach. Today there's not really much beach to enjoy. If you are a regular here, I've often seen me. We have quite a pebbly beach here in Penarth where I live, but there's a walkway at the top of the beach where you can kind of walk quite far down along and usually find a quiet spot to sit and enjoy the outside in safety and peace and quiet. But today, I'll show you in a minute, don't know if you can see behind me, just down there the sea is right in and the walkway is covered, so this is as far as I go for now. This week I have knitting and spinning again to show you, that's all. I am feeling drawn back towards crochet. I was watching the lovely Lynn of Cal and Yarns podcast. She's a lovely lady who is also Cardiff based, so really close to me, and her episode last week was about her blanket whips, her languishing blanket whips, and I've got a couple of crochet blankets, so I'm feeling the call to go back to those. So I think I'm going to pull one of those out this week, so hopefully next week for you crocheters there will be a little bit of crochet content. But this week again it is knitting and spinning, and I'll chat to you about my projects once I get back home. But I know you all enjoy a little bit of beach time, a little bit of the sea and some of the sounds of the sea, so I shall leave you with a minute or two of that before we go back home and chat about the stuff that I've been making. Enjoyed the beach footage, and we're now back home in my craft room and I'm ready to share the things that I've been making this week. I think I'll start with spinning. I've got one finished object to show you and several works in progress. So I'll start with the finished object. And last week you saw the 2 bobbins of singles that I'd spun up from the Nelly and Eve February plant-based fibre club. So I plied up the yarn from those singles. I just did a really basic sort of traditional 2-ply, and if you remember, I had one bobbin of this sort of oatmeal-y light camel sort of colourway, and then I had another bobbin full of some nice kind of pastel-y spring colours, sort of duck egg yellow, and another sort of peachy brown kind of colour. So yes, I plied those up together. Overall the yarn looks pretty beige when you hold it back, but I think this yarn will come into its own once it's been knitted. The way that I spun the singles on the second bobbin, I did sections of the different colours, so there'll be a subtle sort of striping effect with this yarn, obviously depending on what project that it goes into. It's really hard to see in the skein. But there are sections of the yellow, sections of the blue, and then sections of the third colour was like really hard to quantify, but it was, I guess, another variation of beige, if I'm being honest. I managed to get about 220, 230 or so metres of 2-ply from that fibre. And then I had a little bit left on the oatmeal bobbin, which I already flashed at you, and I just chain plied that to make a small sample of yarn. This chain plied sample is really bouncy. I don't know if you can see that if I hold it back. It's really got some spring to it. The 2-ply is not quite like that. It's a nice plump round yarn. The 2-ply, I think I might have underplied it slightly. So depending on what project I decide to add this to eventually, I might need to run it through the wheel again just to tighten up that ply a little bit. If I hold those together, you can probably see the differences in the yarns, how the 2-ply looks against the 3-ply. So yes, I really enjoyed spinning up that yarn. That will now go into stash. I don't have a particular plan for that yarn at the moment, so I shall stash it, and I'm sure something will make itself clear for that yarn at some point in the future. I took my drop spindle to the beach this morning and did a little bit of spindling. The beach was relatively busy. It's a bank holiday day here today, so everyone's got an extra day off this weekend. So I didn't end up spending too long down there, but I'm spinning away on my other Nelly and Eve project. This was from the January Fibre Club. Last week I showed you pretty much a full cop of this fibre, and the fibre on the drop spindle and the fibre on my storage bobbin here, that represents 1/2 of the fibre spun, which I'm really pleased with. So I'm going to wind this off now onto here. I still haven't made a decision yet whether I'm going to keep that yarn as singles or 2-ply it. So for now, I've got the second half in my Lazy Sloths project bag here, and I'm going to spin it in exactly the same way as I spun the first half. So originally I thought I might do a kind of fractal spin, and so the first half on those bobbins I split the fibre down into 6 bits, and this second half, as you can see, is in 3 chunks, but I'm going to split each of these in half because I really love the sort of subtle colours on my spindle here. So I want to keep that going, and I think there's a good chance I'm going to try and keep this yarn as singles for a weaving project. We'll start spinning the second half of this fibre this week. A few people have asked me about drop spindling and whether I have a drop spindle tutorial. I don't have a tutorial as such because I'm always a little bit wary about calling any of my videos tutorials. I have said here many times before, I am no expert, particularly in spinning, and I truly believe that there are many ways to do the same thing. I do have some small clips of how I spin. Last year in my Vlogtober videos, day 30, and I've actually added that video now to my spinning playlist here on YouTube, and I do a quick demo of how to get going on a drop spindle. I highly encourage you to search out drop spinning videos if you can. They're not tons and tons, but they can be found, and see how different people approach the craft. It's the same with knitting and crochet. I always tell anyone who comes into the shop, I believe there are more efficient ways and more ergonomic ways of doing things, but at the end of the day, if you look around any of my group sessions in the shop, everyone holds their knitting needles differently, holds their crochet hook differently, and they're all producing beautiful work, and their projects are gorgeous. They're all getting those wonderful results, but all approaching things slightly differently. So if you're wanting to have a go at drop spindling, I highly encourage you to check out my Vlogtober Day 30 video. I might revamp that at some point if I get time during this continued lockdown period, and do another video that's perhaps a little bit easier for people to find, just demoing how I drop spindle. But again, I'm not an expert, and I can show you how I spin, but I encourage you to pick up the spindle, give it a go, and find a way that suits you. If you watched last week's vlog, you might remember me saying that I'd had a little splurge and treated myself to a few purchases, and one of those arrived this week, and it's some beautiful fibre from Attic Spin Dye. My lovely friends Andy and Angela. This is the Attic Spin Dye logo, and I ordered from them some Corriedale nylon yarn in the Tropical Sunset colourway. I'll pop in a picture here of what the braid looked like when it first arrived. I've started spinning it, so I can't show that to you now. The colours are just gorgeous, and I could not wait to get this onto my spinning wheel. So as soon as I finished the Nelly and Eve spin, this one went straight onto the wheel. You'll also be able to find out how the original braid looks if you check out my How I Decided to Spin a Braid video, which I popped up as a Yarn and Yarns extra this week. Anyway, I have decided to spin this yarn as a fractal, which means I'm dividing my fibre, in this case into 3 parts, and then I'm stripping the fibre down into a variety of different numbers of strips for each bobbin. And I've spun the first third of the fibre onto, I've wound it onto this bobbin. This bobbin actually belongs to my Ashford wheel, and my Ashford is giving me some trouble at the moment, so she's out of commission for a little while until I get the bobbins figured out. So I'm using her bobbins as a storage bobbin, because I only have 3 bobbins for my Haldane spinning wheel, my vintage spinning wheel. As you can see, this fibre is gorgeous colours. All 4 colours are actually present here on the top. So there's purple, there's sunshine yellow, and there's a lovely orange, and then there's a golden yellow in this fibre too. And I'm busy spinning away on my wheel downstairs the second bobbin of the fibre. This bobbin contains fibre that was stripped down nine times. And I'm spinning fibre stripped down 3 times at the moment onto the second bobbin. Got one more lot of fibre stripped down into 6 parts. That will go onto the third bobbin, and I'm going to ply those together, traditional 3-ply, and hopefully make some socks. So that project will definitely keep me busy on the wheel this week, and I love the colours in that lovely braid of fibre from Attic Spin Dye. So yeah, I just couldn't wait to throw that on the wheel and get going. I think the biggest news in spinning since I last spoke to you is I have a fleece. I have started processing a raw fleece. So my lovely friend Charlie, who is Yarn Ambassador on the social medias, and Charlie Button on Ravelry, she sent me a Jacob and Ryland cross fleece that she'd purchased. I think she purchased it on eBay or on Facebook, and she said she's gone a bit mad with the fleece buying recently and was going to send me a fleece of my own, as I've been threatening to get one anyway. So that package arrived last week, and it's just been such a wonderful experience. The fleece is gorgeous, and I put up a Yarn and Yarns extra video, me unboxing that fleece, spreading it out in my garden and starting to sort the fleece. I sorted it for colour, and I started to wash the fleece in that video as well. I started with a small sample of the fleece just to see if I was doing it okay and if things would work out, and they seemed to work out okay. So I have since actually washed the rest of that fleece and it's now waiting to be processed. But while I was washing the rest of it, I went back to that initial little sample that I first washed, and I've started processing that fleece. I have a Yarn and Yarns extra video coming this week. I've got it all filmed, I just need to edit it together, showing me starting to process the fleece and starting to spin with it as well. I've been doing a little bit of sampling, first on my drop spindle, but I plan to do some sampling on my wheel as well. So this is my lovely basket of fluffy Rolags that I've made. I made them using my hand carders, and these are the hand carders that you might have seen me using before. They're a vintage pair of carders that were given to me. So yes, I was happily carding away yesterday, and I have this big basket of Rolags to spin through. It was really interesting because I was sorting that fleece for colour, and I thought that first batch of fleece that I pulled out was all dark colours, but as you can see, now it's all washed up. There is two distinct colours in here. There's this really dark sort of charcoaly colour with bits of chocolatey brown spread through it, and then there's this really sort of medium grey kind of colour, and the fibre feels quite different as well. This grey stuff is really, really soft, so it probably comes from slightly different parts of the fleece, so different parts of the body. But I am not yet versed or expert enough to be able to tell what's what yet. So I've got a little bit of that fibre on the spindle at the moment. I've got a couple of little samples. One I 2-plied and one I chain plied. They're both pretty textured. These were from the first couple of Rolags that I carded. These need to be soaked and finished. But yeah, I thought with I've got quite a lot of fleece to process, so I want to kind of like figure out what's going to be the best way to process it all. These Rolags would be great for woolen spinning, I think, on my spinning wheel, so that's going to be the next thing for me to try. The thing with the drop spindle, it's like once I've got it in my hands, I cannot but resist the urge to spin with it a bit. But yeah, as you can see, my yarn is reasonably textured. It's not a smooth yarn. But I'm okay with that, and I'm really enjoying the process. So yes, I should be documenting that process, so more videos on that to come, no doubt. On to knitting. I have no finished objects to show you this week, and I've got 3 works in progress, 2 of which are brand new. Right, I'll show you the work in progress that you have seen before, and up until the weekend the only project that I knit on was this, my Simple Something sweater. If you can remember, I showed this last week and I had finished the arms for this sweater. I'm going to quickly turn it to the reverse stockinette side because that's the side that is the right side of the garment, so bear with me one second. Let's push that through. So yeah, last week I had split for and finished knitting the sleeves, and so this week I was going back to work on the body, and I've put a lot of work into this. As I say, it's the only project that I knit on up until Saturday. So my body is almost finished to the pattern length. So yeah, I've knit all down here, and I'm really pleased with that progress. Try and hold it up for you. My crazy colourful sweater. My sleeves and body don't match. I'm using up scraps of yarn, minis, leftovers. So there was no way I could get the sleeves and the body to match. I've matched the sleeves to each other as best I can, and now I'm trying my best to kind of follow the transition in terms of the colours on the body and the sleeves, so they don't look too mismatched, but the colours are definitely different. So yes, I've got about another inch to go before I am where the pattern recommends starting the ribbing. I'm working on quite a short circumference circular at the moment, so once I've added that extra inch, I'll put a couple of cords and extender in there and try it on and see how I feel about the length. The ribbing on this is quite a long one. It's about 3 inches long, I think, so I'll need to bear that in mind when I try it on. This project has brought me so much joy this week. It's just been really fun to knit round and round and round and play with colour. It's been a real joy. So let's gather that up. I am a little bit concerned about my yarn. in that of the dark grey that I've been using, I've only got this left, which is not going to be enough to add my inch, then my ribbing, and go back and do the ribbing on the sleeves as well. So I need to go stash diving for another dark grey. I know I've got some black opal hanging around somewhere, so if I can't find another dark grey to use, then I might switch to a black just for the ribbing. I think that will kind of go okay with my sort of fade progression. This project is living in this gorgeous cat bag that my lovely friend Christine sent to me. It's been housing all of the scraps of yarn and the project. It's a great size for a sweater project, this bag. So that's everything rammed in there. Perfect. And then after a distinct lack of sock mojo over recent weeks, my sock mojo seems to have come back with a vengeance. So not so long ago you saw me cast on the lovely socks from the Lemmy colourway from Attic Spin Dye. I haven't done any extra work on those yet this week, but that was kind of like the start of the return of my sock mojo, I think. This week, rather excitingly, I have cast on 2 pairs of socks, and I did one on Saturday, one on Sunday. So it seemed to be a weekend of socks. As I was thinking about my Attic Spin Dye spin this week, the lovely tropical colours that I showed you earlier, it reminded me that last year I spun some Cheviot from Wildcraft UK with a view of knitting 2 knitting socks, and I hadn't actually cast that yarn on, so I decided it was time to cast on. And I did. And here is my progress so far. This is my first ever hand spun sock. I'm really excited to see how it turns out. So here we go. These are the lovely colours that were dyed by Wildcraft UK in that Cheviot yarn. This is a 3-ply yarn. It was a traditional 3-ply, and for the most part it's kind of sport weight, DK in places, I would say. So the thing that kind of prevented me from casting this on earlier was the fact that I knew I would probably have to do a toe-up sock, which is not my favourite, just to gauge the fit, because I'm not knitting to my normal sock recipe. It's not a 4-ply fingering weight yarn. So I cast on, did a Turkish cast on. Initially I increased, if you see there's a bit of a weird sort of bump in my sock there. So initially I increased up to 52 stitches, and then when I tried it on, I figured I could get away with going down to 48, so I did a decrease. That bit's just around my toe. It's not really going to show when I put these on, and I kind of figured I'd probably have to rip back and, you know, finagle a bit, but then I thought, nah, let's just not rip back and let's just carry on. So I did a little decrease and I'm back to 48 stitches, and this seems to be fitting quite well. I might even have gotten away with going down to like 44 stitches for a really good bit of negative ease, but I'm happy with the 48. I'm knitting them on 3mm needles. As I say, this yarn is a little bit thicker. I generally knit my socks on 2.25 if I'm doing 4-ply, but this fabric I'm happy with, and they're knitting up really quickly. This was just an hour or 2 of work yesterday. Sat in the garden in the sunshine, enjoying the last of the evening sunshine. So yes, I don't think it'll be too long before I have to think about adding in a heel. I think I'm going to do a heel flap and gusset on this one, but yeah, I'll have to decide that shortly, I think. I'm keeping that in a lovely project bag from Emma of Eldenwood Craft that I purchased at the Knit Tea Retreat last year. So I've got my Knit Tea Retreat badge on there. I've also got my Sinister Cats badge on there too, because it coordinates nicely with the green bag. I love this. It's just simple, good quality. Dare I say, it looks pretty classy. I'm not usually a classy person, but it's a pretty classy bag. I've divided my yarn into half. The one thing that I didn't do was actually measure this yarn before I started knitting with it. Spin a fail. I'm not sure what video it was, but I'm pretty sure I mentioned that I was organising my hand spun stash, and I measured all of my hand spun, I labelled it all up and put it away nicely, tried to get my Ravelry up to date. but this yarn was already in this project bag waiting to be cast on, so it got overlooked, and I'd forgotten that I hadn't done it for this yarn. So I merrily cast on, and then I went to check my Ravelry page for this handspun yarn to find out, you know, how many meters and all that kind of stuff, so that it would give me an idea for future handspun socks, and there was no information there. It's been a fail. I probably will, once I've finished these socks, if I've got any yarn left, I'll probably wait and measure what I have left. I know there was 106 grams in these two skeins to start with, and I might try and kind of like calculate backwards roughly how much yarn I had based on what I have left, if that makes any sort of sense, and kind of do it that way. It's not ideal, but teaches me a lesson, doesn't it? So yes, handspun socks have been started, and I couldn't be happier. And also this weekend, my lovely friend Caroline, who is Kralaline everywhere online and has the Colourful Creativity hand-dyed yarn company, she released a pattern on Ravelry this weekend as in celebration of her Gran's 90th birthday, and she's got this pattern was inspired by I think a cardigan or a sweater that her Gran had knit, and so she's publishing this pattern, and I think there might be more to come inspired by her Gran's knitwear, which is just lovely. So this weekend she released the sleepover socks, so the first pattern, and I had to cast them on. So this is my sleepover sock progression. I'm actually using some of the onion nettle yarn that I purchased quite recently from Wild and Woolly. This one is colourway, say on the label, 1027. I'm not sure if it's got a colourway name. This is 70% wool and 30% nettle fibres rather than nylon. And I purchased a sweater quantity of this to go in my Otra sweater, and while I was purchasing that, I also purchased a couple of colours to play around in socks, and I thought this would be the perfect occasion to try out this yarn. So this is the lovely sleepover pattern with these gorgeous cables and lace panels. It's plain on the back, so this is again knitting up really quickly, and every other row on this chart, so you know it looks pretty fancy, pretty complicated, but it really isn't. Every other row is a rest row, so this sock has flown by. Again, I cast this on Saturday and spent a couple of hours on it and have the leg pretty much done. The pattern as written suggests one more pattern repeat before you move on to the heel. Of course, you can adjust that to make the sock as long as you want. I think I am going to leave it there and keep these socks a little bit shorter. I'm wondering if I can get a whole pair out of one 50-gram ball. I think I might be squeezing it tight because usually I need... I can get one pair out of a 50-gram ball if I do contrast heels, toes and cuffs. This cuff is a little bit longer than I usually do, but yeah, we'll see. I do have another ball of this, so it's not a problem, but because it's a nice solid colourway, I thought it'd be nice to stash some of this for contrast heels, toes and cuffs on future socks. So yeah, this is how tall my leg is going to be. That's 3 pattern repeats. I'm going to stick in the heel and knit down the foot. This yarn is really interesting to work with. It's got a slightly different feel on the hand to a wool nylon blend that you might often have used for socks if you're a sock knitter, but it knits up really nicely. It's got a really nice stitch definition. I think you can hopefully see that on the back. The only thing I would say, it's also got quite a nice heathered look. I think maybe the nettle is undyed, or perhaps it doesn't take the dye in the same way as the wool, because there's kind of like this underlying kind of white natural kind of fleck to it. How well that's sort of showing up, I think you can see bits of it. So yeah, it makes quite a nice for a nice depth of colour. The only thing I will say though is there have been a couple of bits in my ball of yarn where there's obviously been a slight fault with the yarn. I don't know if it's kind of caught in the winding process, got caught on the machine or something, but there have been sort of slubby bits of the nettle, so there's a little bit there which I think you can see quite clearly. There's a sort of extra bit of white there, and there was another bit down here somewhere, although I did pull some of it out because it really was quite obvious. I'm not sure if that's just a fault with this ball of yarn. I don't really mind because I think it gives the yarn a little bit of character. But if you're a type A, want everything to be perfect person, then yeah, just bear that in mind. I think it would be easy to kind of work around those bits of yarn. You can always cut them out. They're few and far between. I think, as I say, there's been 2 so far. And I definitely have not had that experience in the black yarn that I'm using on my Ultra sweater. So that kind of makes me think that maybe it's just, you know, I've got a bit of a dodgy ball. So yes, that's everything. Simple something, my hand spun socks and my sleep over socks. That's everything I've been knitting on this week. I feel like I've been waffling on for quite a long time, so we shall see. I've had to stop the video a couple of times, so I'm not entirely sure how long I've been going, but hopefully I can cut things down to a reasonable length video for you. And before I disappear, I just want to quickly chat about a couple of things that have come my way this week. I do have some more things that I've purchased on the way that haven't arrived yet, but I was also really lucky and have been gifted 2 wonderful packages this week. The first is some amazing fibre from Witchcrafty Lady. It's Polworth fibre, and look at that. Isn't that just perfectly me? I love it so much. It's brilliant. And this was gifted to me by Martin. Thank you so much, Martin. You are a gem. You really are. There was a little note in the package to say, I saw this colour and I thought of you. Wonder why. I've spun with Polworth once before. A lovely skein of dyed fibre from Jenny of Owl About Yarn, who is a local dyer to me in Cardiff. And I haven't actually knit with that yet. Hang on, let me see if I can grab it out of my stash. So yeah, that was the Polworth that I had before. So this might actually be a nice match for this. This ended up being quite a thick yarn. I've got about 150 metres here of the Tiger colourway from Owl About Yarn. So maybe if I can spin to the same thickness, I might be able to put these together for a nice shawl or perhaps a cowl project. We shall see. We'll see how clever I am in terms of can I spin this to the same thickness. But this will be next on the wheel after I have spun up the Corriedale that I'm working on. This is just gorgeous. There's lots of different kind of tones of orange with some undyed parts. I know this will make for a really pretty yarn. So yeah, I'm really excited to spin that up. Thank you once again, Martin. Also was surprised with a wonderful package from Julie, and Julie sent me some journaling and paper crafting items, as well as some amazing fabric. Look at this beautiful flamingo fabric. So I've actually been trying to get my sewing machine area down on the dining room table a bit clearer this weekend, so I reckon I make myself a lovely project bag out of that fun flamingos fabric. Can't wait to get that under the machine. Julie also sent me a couple of amazing minis. Look at that, don't they go together beautifully? They're really lovely. And then she also sent me all sorts of paper crafting goodies, including this amazing handmade notebook. So there's some, oh look, there's some beautiful papers inside there. I have to think of something really special to do with that. Maybe this could be like my little notebook for my fleece preparation journey. What do you think? Look at that gorgeous stamped kitty on the front. Yeah. Beautiful, thank you, Julie. And then in this envelope there's loads of bits and pieces that I can use in my journaling, and I just have to show you these little tags that she sent me with a cute sheep in, and I've already used one of those in my journal this week, as well as some of this beautiful paper which says on here made in Bangladesh from sugarcane waste, which is really interesting. That beautiful orange paisley effect. So thank you so much, Julie. I'm so very lucky to have some wonderful, kind and generous followers here on YouTube. Yeah, thank you guys, thanks. We've got one more week left of our Try Something New make along that's happening over in the Ravelry group, and let me just hop up as we're coming to the end of that and show you the prize that we've got for that, which was sponsored by the lovely Attic Spin Die. So in order to participate in that make along, just hop on over to the Ravelry group. There is a link below this video, and if you have tried something new over the last few months, all of the details will be over in the group. If you've had a go at something new, so it could be a new craft, a new technique, a new stitch pattern, anything that you've tried that's new to you, just pop a photo of your progress over in the Ravelry group, and at the beginning of June I will draw a winner from all of the posts that have a photo of the projects that people have been working on over in that thread. And the prize winner will get this beautiful skein from Attic Spin Die, the Misty Wash colourway, which is superwash merino nylon, 75/25. Oh, it's gonna be so hard to give away. The colours are gorgeous. There's greens and there's greys and there's blues. It's lovely, really, really lovely. And it comes with a spinning wheel progress keeper, and there's also this really cute zebra pin. And this is Spot, the rainbow zebra, and Spot is raising awareness for invisible illnesses, and particularly the Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is a condition that's close to Attic Spin Die's heart. I'll put some links below where you can find more information about that. So yes, if you'd like to be in with a chance of winning that skein, then hop on over to the Ravelry group and tell us all about what you have been trying out that's new to you. As always, I hope you are doing well. I hope you are still managing to cope with the current situation. You're finding ways to get through the days, to get through the weeks. And if you are in a key working position and you're out there on the front line doing your jobs day in, day out, then my absolute total gratitude goes out to you. Thank you so much for everything that you are doing to help the country and the world keep going. I think about all of the folks out there working really hard often. I really do. As always, thank you so much for spending time with me. I really do appreciate the time that we spend together, whether you are here for the vlogs or whether you watch all of the Yarn and Yarns extras as well, or just dip in and out as and when you can. I truly appreciate any time that we get to spend together. And all of the interactions and the comments have been really helping me get through this difficult time. So thank you to the Yarn and Yarns community out there, of which you are all, of course, a part. Until we get to spend time together again, I hope you get to do some of the things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now.